One of the problems with having unlimited music to pick from is finding something to listen to. I personally like listening to music in album form, listening to the whole album start to finish. I know some people like listening to individual songs or playlists. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no wrong way to listen to music, except maybe backwards. Unless you're Led Zeppelin. Here, I made a shortcut that will get all the music from my Apple Music library, find a song, randomly pick a song from it, filter that to its album, and then play the whole album and give us a notification. So I'm going to walk through building this shortcut. It's a pretty simple shortcut, but I'm going to use all native Apple Music actions, so you don't need to buy any additional apps. If we use Toolbox Pro, we could probably make this a little more robust and do some more interesting things with it. But for now, we're just going to stick with the native Apple Music actions. I know Spotify just recently added shortcut support. Last I looked, it wasn't nearly as robust as Apple Music's was. That's the biggest reason why I've stuck with Apple Music through this time, is because its shortcut support is just so much more robust and you can do so much more with it. So let's go ahead and start a new shortcut. The very first action we want is the find music action. So we will go ahead and just drag this here. So what we want is we want find music, and then we'll just hit sort by album. This doesn't really matter at all, to be honest. I just like... You'll kind of see, like, as we go through, I name my variables, I make sure everything is proper, so that way, like, if somebody was just to look at this, they should be able to just figure out what it is, no problem. So this doesn't really matter, but you'll kind of see as we go through, I like to be a little more organized when making these shortcuts. So we are going to do, we can just type in random for this, but we'll use the get item from list action, and we're going to change first item by clicking on it or tapping on it, and then go to random item. So we're going to get a random item of music now. So if we were to run this, so when we run this, it just randomly gets a song from Apple Music and then displays the metadata. And here's the album, Metallica, Ride the Lightning, great album. Fantastic. Okay, so what we could go through next is we're going to want to filter all of this. So we're going to want to get the whole album. So we're going to do filter music. If I could spell, it's actually the find music action, but as soon as we put it down here, it's going to filter this music. So we're going to filter it to album. So we're going to filter the album, and then we'll add a filter. Okay, so now we're going to want to change this section right here. We're going to want to change artist to album, and then we're going to want to change item from lists, but just by clicking or tapping on them, that's how we're changing these. We're going to change that to album. So when you click or tap on a variable, these are variables right here, you get this menu right here, and you can go into the get option, and you can change. Right now where it's set to iTunes Media, but you can actually come in here and tell it it's a whole bunch of different stuff, but it is iTunes Media. So for right now, we just set it to album, but there is a whole lot of other options you could filter by as well. So maybe you only want stuff that's above a certain star rating, if you did a great job at categorizing it, or you can set it to stuff that you've liked or stuff that has a high play count. For me, I just want it to be albums. That's it. That's all I want. So now we're going to want to play the music. So grab play music action. And there's not really anything we need to do to that. I would just say make sure all this is nothing selected in here, or this is set to off or whatever. We don't want shuffle or repeating, but by default, that's off already. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is add a notification. The reason why I would put a notification in here is, sometimes an album starts and it's either really quiet or it's not as iconic, so you don't instantly remember what it is off the top of your head. So I want to be able to know exactly what is playing right away, so that way if it's something I'm not interested in, or if it's just like a single or something like that, I can skip it, I can run this shortcut again, and it'll grab another album. So for show notification, we're going to change this to tracks, and then we're going to use the magic variable again, and we are going to get the filter music, and we are going to just right here, by default, we could just hit done, but I'm just going to select titles, so it changes the name of the variable for us. So that way, when we are looking at this, we know it's going to show the titles. I am going to hit show more now. So the weird thing about the show notification, it always throws me off. For some reason, I always think this should be the title and this should be the body, but this is actually the title, mostly because I think this is up top. It's weird. I don't know why it's that way. It just is. So for title, we're going to hit playing, colon, and then we're going to use the magic variable action again, but we're going to use the item from list option. And we are going to get, and we're going to set it to album. And then we're going to do space, the word by, space, and then do the magic variable option again. One interesting thing, so I'm always hitting the magic variable option, but there's these variable bars down here you can actually use. So we can just hit this item from list option because I know that's it. Sometimes if you have multiples of the same action in there, you don't want to use them unless you're naming them because you might get the wrong one. But we could just hit item from list, and I'm going to set this to artist. I'm going to turn off play sound. And for attachment, we can just leave it alone. It will actually just get the album artwork. But again, I like to make sure everything is kind of named properly. So I could just hit this rename button and call it a day, or I could just select album artwork. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. If any music, the audio cuts out, any music starts playing, I'm going to cut the audio for that part because I don't have the rights to it, and YouTube would just delete all the audio. So let's just hit play, and I'll kind of show you how it works. Okay, so here we go. So here's the album artwork, track list, and then if we close this up and go into Control Center, you can see that it's playing. And then we can come over here to Apple Music, scroll down, and you can see it has the whole album queued up now. So that's pretty cool. So the one thing I will say is you have to make sure the albums that you want played are added to your Apple Music library, not necessarily a playlist, but the library. So like you either have to hit the button that's up here, or you have to make sure all the tracks are added. The easiest thing to do is just hit the add button up top, then it adds all the tracks. If the album is not in your library, it will not be added to this. So this shortcut right here only runs against music that is in your library. So that's it. That's the shortcut right there. Like I said, I will put it in the description below for those that don't want to build it themselves, that just want to download it and install it. It's there. You can have it. No big deal. But for those that did build along or are building the shortcut, hopefully you learned something. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like these shortcut tutorials, let me know in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day.